The Earnestly Speaking podcast is a show that is founded on free-flowing conversation and may at times venture into mature subjects. Listener discretion is advised.
Earnestly Speaking podcast coming to you on May 17th, 2022. How you guys doing? Good to talk to you guys here. It is actually conference finals time in the NBA. Looking forward to that. Of course, my Miami Heat's in there. We'll talk about it in a second. But I want to get a little personal here for a little bit. For the first couple minutes of this podcast today. Of course, this podcast is subscribed on all podcast catchers on such as iTunes, Apple Podcasts, such as Stitcher Radio, Spotify, Google Pod, Amazon Music, you name it. Well, I can't talk today. I really can't. No, but seriously, I'm going to get a little personal now on this one now, a little bit for the first couple minutes, because I've had a rough weekend. This episode's called Farewell OC. Some of you guys might know who OC is. OC is, for the last almost 11 years of this podcast, my dog I've had since 2009. I had to put him down this past Friday. It was tough. I didn't think I didn't think it'd be as hard as it was. And especially now, 4 days out since, and it's been a rough few days for the family, me, the wife, the kids. But we're trying, really trying. We've had him 13 years, as I said, and basically what it came down to is that he had a mass on his chest. He's had it for about almost a year. Originally, the vet said that it was mostly cosmetic. So basically, don't get too you don't get crazy about it. Just is what it is. It's a cosmetic thing, maybe. As long as it's squishy, it's fine. But the mass got getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and then all of a sudden you start seeing bumps grow on top of the mass. It was very visible too on top of that. Adding to the fact also too that he has had trouble walking for a while now. He had actually had bad knees way back. He was like 2-3 years old, and he had a torn ACL. And obviously, the vet said it pretty much. It grew, it healed itself, but what's going to happen eventually? He'll probably get arthritis. So he's had a hard time walking really for the last year or so, year and a half. We have a townhouse here, so a lot. What happens is he has come upstairs to see us, and recently he's had more trouble going up the stairs. And even coming down the stairs, he has to be very careful. I've had that dog since May of 2009. That dog has been with me through pre-marriage, when I got married, when I got engaged, when I got married, when I had both my kids. That dog has been with me pretty much the majority of my adult life. I was someone growing up. I wasn't never really a big pet person. We didn't have much pets as a kid. I know I had a rabbit at one point, and I think I had a dog when I was 17. But I never really engaged with a dog that much. I was 17. I was in high school. I was doing my own thing. It actually ran away. It was a Dalmatian, by the way. So I never really had a pet. And I remember when we, my wife and I, at the time we weren't married at the time. We were living together, of course, but we were married at the time. When I told her I wanted to have pets, I wanted to have a dog. We actually ended up getting 2, actually. And she said, "Well, if you're gonna get a dog, listen. Here's his deal. Don't get too attached. Well, say not get attached. Just know that when you get a dog, you're gonna get attached to the point where when you lose it, it's gonna be hard." Of course, back in 2009, I'm 29 years old. I'm not really, thinking about this. I'm thinking, okay, whatever. I'll live my life. When it happens, it happens. We got OC. I want to say it was like 2 days after day after my 29th birthday, and then 2 days later he gets sick. He gets parvo, so he was already under the gun already with issues, and he survived. That was a rough time for those couple of days. We had parvo. It was scary because parvo, the younger you are as a puppy, it's the odds of living are less. He did survive though. He was a miracle dog. And then he's been there ever since. It's a big doofus. OC, he was. God, I miss him. But yeah, he's been a constant for us for the last 13 years. And the hard part here for me, especially, is obviously I miss him, but it hits me in waves. Like, you obviously when you have a dog, like we have 2 cats also as well too in the house, and we've had cats over the course of those 13 years. We've had cats also in the house too, and we've lost a few, of course. I've become a bit of a cat person now as I gotten older. In fact, cats are easier to me than dogs, which is why I don't want any more dogs ever, really, to be honest with you. At least not in the near future. Because dogs are very, to me, cats are like background noise in a lot of ways. Like, as long as you feed it, you clean the litter box, whatever, and pet it once in a blue moon, you're good. Dogs, you have to walk them, you have to feed them, you have to be on top of them. They demand your attention like a child. So when we got OC in 2009, he was basically my first son, my first kid, really. And I said a couple years ago when we had a second child, when we had Logan, I said basically that once he passes, I'm done having dogs because it's a lot of work. But I do miss him a lot. I do. And where I miss him more than anything else is in the little habits. Like, you obviously in 13 years you create habits. You have the habit of walking him in the morning. You have the habit of feeding him. You have the habit of doing this and that. You have the habit of him being randomly, at the stairs wanting to come inside the gate. We had this thing called Ghost Dog. Whenever you sit by the gate waiting for us to let him in upstairs, and we're in the room watching TV, whatever it may be, he'd be sitting right there waiting for us to open the gate for him. We call it Ghost Dog. It was basically something else, Scrubs. And you don't hear him. We have hardwood floors here, so you can hear his paws walking. You don't hear that anymore. Last week, hours after we put him down, we had leftover pizza, and typically my kids, they eat the pizza. They don't like to eat the crust, so naturally we get the crust to the dog. So when my son Logan goes, "Oh, Dad, I'm done the pizza. I have a crust." My first thought was, give it to Ozzy. And I remember, wait, he's not here anymore. See, the little things. It's the little things that get me, that makes it hard. I took him to the vet on Friday afternoon. What happened, basically, it was like Thursday, I was off. And he started bleeding again. He had been bleeding a little bit here and there under that mass I was telling you about. We got it to stop bleeding. But I set a vet appointment for 3:30 on Friday, and my wife was home on Friday, so I went to work a normal day. Strange enough, we kept the kids out of school that day, just randomly, just cause. And I get to work, and literally 10 minutes into my shift, I get a text and a phone call from my wife saying, "You need to come home now. He's bleeding again, and he's bleeding a lot more than usual." She sent me a video of him bleeding on the stairs, bleeding on the floor. So I tell my boss, "Listen, I have to go. My dog is not. He's bleeding again. He's not doing well. I got to go and take care of the situation." So I got out of work and went to take care of the situation, and took him to the vet as an emergency as opposed to the 3:30 appointment. And we sat there, we discussed it, and she said basically, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Obviously, you can't know what to do, but cause I asked for opinion, and she said, "Well, if I was in your shoes, I probably would lean towards putting him down because he's 13 years old, number one, and quality of life becomes an issue now." The mass is big to the point where the mass is so big that he's struggling to walk as it is. And excuse me. I was having a hard time walking. If we would know he has a cancerous thing in that mass that would require a biopsy is a lot of freaking money. Money I don't have right now for that. So it's one of those things where I weighed quality of life versus, what's best for him. And one of the things you got to do, I know I did, is I took the emotion out of it. I know I want him here, but what's best for him? He's in pain, So naturally, I made a decision to put him down based on that. My wife, she's back and forth on that. Obviously, she thinks that she regrets sometimes putting him down, sometimes but that's the empath in her, obviously. But it's been a rough couple days. We put him down. She came in later on with the kids, say our goodbyes. We were all in the room with him, and I was there for the entire process. I held him throughout the entire process. He's a big dog, actually, but I held him by his neck. Just kind of hugged him. They gave him the sedative. He immediately, within 5 seconds, passed out. And then they gave him the last part that pretty much is where they pronounce him. And when they pronounced him, he was gone. I just started bawling. I haven't cried like that in probably a decade. Probably last time I cried like that was when my grandmother passed away. In 2012. And my sons, they both wanted to be there to see the situation. My oldest son, especially Eli, who's 9 years old, he wanted to be there to see the whole thing. And he was there. He was strong about it. And then once OC passed, he couldn't stop crying either. He even told me that, no, I don't want to see that ever again. I told him that he's at peace. He's at peace, and it was very humane. He doesn't even know he died because he fell asleep. But yeah, it's been a rough couple days, just adjusting. 13 years of habits. So I never would have thought in my life that a pet would be. You obviously pets mean a lot to you. Obviously, you know that. I know that. I didn't think it impacted me this much. So, we lost him last Friday. I know I made the right decision in the end, still, but it's not easy. I want to thank everybody, especially too, on social media, friends and family who texted, called, family especially too, for checking in. They knew how much that dog meant to me. That dog, that dog. I always said that dog chose me. we rescued him, and he chose me. But thank you all guys for your texts, your prayers, your love, support on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, texts, of course, calls. How much it meant to me. So, again, farewell to OC. Thank you for 13 years of being the best pet ever. Like I said, it still hurts. It still hurts, but I know I made the right decision there. Made the right decision on putting him down because it's about him. To weigh the emotion out of it for myself and do what's best for him, for his quality of life. So, anyway, so we got a lot to talk about here. I want to get us in the next 15 minutes because I have to go record on the podcast in a second. You guys want an allergy update? I get allergy update. Still allergies. Still dealing with that. But still been feeling very fatigued a lot the last couple of days. So I was on the mend the last couple of days, and then I don't know if it's because of my depression because of the dog passing or whatever, but it's kind of still there. I'm staying on top of my allergies. I've been taking Zyrtec at night, which is which had me groggy yesterday, to be honest with you. Even though it was now drowsy. So I'm going to take it again tonight, but I'm going to take it a little earlier, probably during the heat game, early enough so it won't drag into the middle of the night, into the next morning. Had a little bit of allergy attack this past morning, too, especially. I don't know what's going on, man. I feel like I'm falling apart here, But we were doing well there, and then now 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, Anyway, so that's that there. Let's see. Obviously, Chris Paul. Let's talk Chris Paul real quick. Chris Paul, of course, Phoenix Suns, losing 7 games to the Dallas Mavericks on Sunday. Embarrassing performance there. If you listen to the Rap Reaction podcast we did on the In the Paint episode this past Sunday, dropped it yesterday, Monday, with me, Chris, and Zach. We weighed in on Chris Paul. Of course, Zach being the Chris Paul quote unquote hater, we know he weighed in a little bit on that. We all did. Obviously, Chris Paul is getting a lot of heat on social media for his performance the last 4 games rather. From the moment he turned 37 years old, I think it was game 3. He was atrocious. So his legacy, what is his legacy now going forward? To me, Chris Paul's still one of the top 6-7 point guards all the time. I don't think that changed anything. Obviously, a ring would have changed this perception of him maybe cracking top 5. But again, his legacy is so hard to figure out because this is what is true. And I think we need to get out of this whole black and white thing when it comes to, how we look at players. Either they're good or bad. What is true is that every team Chris Paul goes to, or has gone to, has been a disaster before he got there. He gets there, okay, and that team is now lifted to being a 50-plus win team, a playoff contender every year, okay, sometimes close to conference finals and in the finals. In the case of Phoenix, whether it's New Orleans, whether it's the Clippers, whether it's Houston, whether it's OKC, which I still to this day that 1 year OKC, they were supposed to be tanking that year, and they made it the 5 seed in the playoffs. And now Phoenix. So I want to have a better understanding, a better discussion about Chris Paul's and his legacy. Like, Chris Paul is an all-time great. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer without question. Okay, is he Isaiah Thomas? Is he Steph Curry? Is he Magic Johnson? No. Is he John Stockton? Probably not either. At least John Stockton wins 2 finals. But could we stop the noise about Chris Paul being he's just trash? Like, this is the thing I can't stand about NBA Twitter and NBA fans as a whole, is that it doesn't always have to be either or. We can have a conversation saying, like, he's great, he's really good what he does, this and that, first of all, Hall of Famer, but he just can't get over that hump. He's also had a lot of bad luck, too, on top of that. Well, but, one stat that hurts him, though, I'll tell you right now, is that he's 0-5. He's blown 5 0-2 leads in his career. Okay, he's also blown a few 3-1 leads as well, too. They should have won this series, honestly. And I'm stunned. Not that it lost in Game 7, although I am stunned they lost Game 7 because I thought they would have won Game 7. It's the way they lost. That was never a game. That game was done from the minute that game tipped off. Dallas was up by 10 in the first quarter and up by 7. Then up by 30 at halftime, and then it got to 40 points one point. But let's stop the noise here. A lot of blame can be shared, especially too with this game, with that game and that series. But Chris Paul is still all time great. Let's cut the noise there. He's all time great. But leave it at that and go from there. He doesn't suck. He's not a Hall of Famer. Let's stop that noise. And be honest with you, that performance. While he gets a lot of blame for that performance, where was Devin Booker? Devin Booker didn't show up also. Mr. Chatty Devin Booker. Monty Williams, Coach of the Year, great season, deserved the Coach of the Year for the record. But where was he? Making adjustments and whatnot. DeAndre Ayton was 17 minutes in the game. Didn't want to come back in the game apparently, or whatever it was. He may play his last game in Phoenix this year. Who knows? So let's cut the noise with Chris Paul. He's all time great, but we can always have more nuanced context when it comes to these things. Like, don't not have that. So anyway, predictions for the East Finals, West Finals. Of course, the Heat and Celtics in the East, and you got the Warriors and Mavericks in the West. I am going Heat in 7. I want to say Heat in 5 just because of the whole Miami Heat mantra. Heat in 5, but it's Heat in 7. If Boston wins this series, it's going to be in 6 games. I don't see any of these teams clinching games on the road at all. Clinching the series on the road. I don't see it happening. So if Boston wins the series, it'll be in 6 games. As for the West, I have the Warriors in 5. I wouldn't surprise it's a sweep. People saying, what, you crazy? Luka? Dallas, Golden State matches well with Dallas. Draymond Green will get that match against Luka. And as long as they can make him inefficient, it'll be fine. So again, Heat in 7, Warriors in 5. Next thing here on the list of things to talk about, I'm going to keep this a little relatively short. Phil Jackson's allegedly advising the Lakers right now. Why? I don't know. Obviously he used to be engaged to Jeannie Buss, who's the current owner and whatnot. Obviously I've been critical of the Lakers and ownership and having not just him now, Phil Jackson involved, but also Kurt Rambis, his wife, having basketball, influence on what's going on, what to do, which makes no freaking sense at all. Supposedly Phil Jackson is advising the Lakers to trade LeBron James and keep Russell Westbrook. Now, when you see that and you read that, you're like, what the fuck is he doing? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Like, Phil's lost the marbles. But when you settle down and you really think about it from a nuance, again, this is come back to context and nuance. And I don't think Phil Jackson is not. Phil Jackson's a one of the greatest, probably the greatest coach of all time, but as a front office guy, terrible. But what he said there, if this is true, especially, it's not necessarily a terrible idea. Here's why. If you are looking to build for the future, for the next 10, 15 years for the Lakers, and you were convinced that even with LeBron James, the window's closed, which I honestly believe right now the window's closed even with LeBron James, because unless you're telling me AD is playing 80, 75-plus games this year, LeBron can still sustain what he's doing this year, and Russell Westbrook can actually figure the shit out, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. I mean, number one, teams are getting better all around them. You already have Memphis, Golden State. Phoenix is still pretty good, despite what happened in the playoffs. Denver, be back with full strength next year. Clippers back full strength next year. Minnesota's coming. New Orleans coming. You got a lot of teams in the Western Conference alone. I haven't gotten to the East yet. I haven't got to the Milwaukee's, the Miami's, and the Boston's, and Brooklyn, of course, and Philly. So the Lakers, if you look at the bill for the future going forward, who is their best asset right now? Their best asset is LeBron James. I argue more than Anthony Davis for reasons said because of the fact that AD can't stay healthy. LeBron is still at 37 years old, still arguably a top 5 player in the league. So it's not a bad look. It's not a bad thing. And Russell Westbrook only has 1 year left in his contract. So hypothetically, you can still trade that contract at some point during the season. Let's say he plays well and he's able to go to a contender and help a contender, which I doubt it's going to happen, but again. But at worst, you have him 1 more year. You're out of the LeBron thing. AD, we'll see what happens there. You build on AD or you trade him as well too and go from there. I don't think Phil's idea, if this is actually true, is a horrible one, honestly. I don't think it is. Phil Jackson's a nut job. Anyway, last thing before I go. Ric Flair is reportedly returning to the ring. He'll be supposedly wrestling at Starrcade, I think, 5 in July, late July. Rumors are he's going to be wrestling Ricky Dragon Steamboat. I don't know if it's true or not. Ric Flair back in the ring. Now, I've watched some clips of Ric Flair, on his Instagram in the ring, taking some bumps, whatnot. For a guy his age, 73 years old, he looks pretty decent. So I'm not necessarily hating on this shit. But Ric Flair can't seem to quit this business, man. Ric Flair can't seem to quit it. He's addicted to it. And I get it. I totally get it. But I to be honest with you, I don't think he will do a horrible job. I'm just going based on the clips I've seen on social media that he's put. Now, obviously, he's chosen to clip up the best things he can to put out there. So for propaganda, of course. But the clips I've seen of him so far, taking bumps and whatnot, he's not bad, dude. For a 73-year-old, not bad at all. I don't know if I'll actually order this fight at all. I don't know who he's facing. We don't know yet. I think he should face Steamboat to be one option. I think Sting, because Sting's actually, especially now in his 60s, is still doing pretty well at AEW. I think you should consider Sting as well, too. It should be someone that's legendary, that also has a past that's, comparable to his in terms of who he's met in the past. So Barry Windham or Sting or Steamboat, somebody who's had a legacy with him in some of the greatest matches in the history of the business. Something like that. So, yeah, Ric Flair coming to the ring in late July. We'll see what happens there. We'll see obviously more details will come as the time goes over. Anyway, so that's enough of me. Just a quick 20-minute podcast here. Again, I'm on Twitter at EJChristian7, Earnestly Podcast. Of course, all podcast catchers, as I said. And we will talk to you guys soon. Again, shout out to my dog, Osi. Farewell. I love you. Miss you, man. God, I miss you. You have no idea. Anyway, we'll talk soon. See you guys later, I guess. Next podcast. Later in a week. Bye.